Religion and divorce, how they relate to me. I'm Rock, your divorce strategist. I've been divorced a couple times. First one, I married my high school sweetheart when I was 22. Married in the Catholic Church. Raised with 10 brothers and sisters. My parents, devout Catholics. And we lived under the 10 Commandments. 8 boys and 3 girls. Hardworking people, blue collar. And we were told, basically get out of the house. But we were accustomed to was marriage. Marriage and children. We're Italian, man. Polish, Italian. You know, first generation family. And I picked a woman from high school, and some of the criteria besides attraction was how good is the family? Is it as good as our family? Are they Catholic? Are they people of integrity? And, you know, you never know what's happening behind the scenes. Well, I wasn't the easiest guy to get along with because I was a go-getter. College, went away to school, first one in my family. I had high expectations, not only of myself, but everyone else. And I just thought, you know what? I'm going to pick the right girl and have children with, marry for the right reasons, love, in the Catholic Church, and do all the right things. And by the way, get to work. It wasn't about sex and, you know, how's this going to look in the next 10 years, 15 years. You know, what is my ambition, my dreams? My dreams were raise great kids. But I always thought I'd have a woman that was supportive and that really cared about the family and about our combined efforts to raise good kids. Well, after 12 years and raising the kids in Catholic schools, going through baptisms, going through communions, going through confirmations, that was all part of the process. But as a family, I'm talking about a united family. Well, it was all broken up. The 10 Commandments started going to hell between me and my ex-wife, my first wife, and didn't know shit. And my dreams and aspirations started to fall apart. And that's all in my book, my memoir, titled They Named You Right. So that's when I realized this is reality. And the reality is my ex-wife was a product of a divorced family. And they didn't like each other. I'm talking about the mother and the father, where my parents loved each other, dedicated to each other, raised 11 kids, a family business. And I bought into that dream. And I thought my ex-wife would become my mother, I guess. Hardworking woman, taking care of the kids, doing all the right things, not fucking around. Well, it didn't work. And I would become my father, which I basically did. Workaholic because I had to. Because I was the breadwinner. Then I learned a lot about people, about commitment, about dedication, and listening to priests. I know it's getting a little windy here. It's a beautiful day in Florida. But I just had to talk about this. And hopefully my editor will edit a lot of this wind out. So what I learned was there was a third party involved that was coaching my ex-wife, the mother of my children. And that's what really hurt, was the embarrassment of I picked the wrong horse. I picked the wrong mother at the time. And I was very distraught. I didn't know how to save this. And I realized I can't save it. It's been over 40 years since that divorce. And I see my kids and I see what they're going through. And I feel for them because now, after 40 years of being divorced, knowing the truth really hurts, man. To realize that their parents were human. I learned the same thing about my mother and father. I realized that something my father would say many times, and he'd say it really harsh like. That harshness was, hey, you make sure you take care of yourself. I thought the way he said it was harsh. And I thought he was guilting us about being selfish. Well, what he really meant, as I age in my 70s now, he was like, hey, no, you got to take care of yourself because no one's going to take care of you. My kids aren't going to take care of me. My ex-wives aren't going to take care of me. I got to take care of me. But one thing I didn't lose in my divorce, sure, I lost finance. I lost my kids on a traditional way. I lost dreams. There were a lot of losses. My career changed dramatically. But guess what I always kept? My faith. You could be Christian, you could be Jewish. I'm Catholic, and I stuck to it. I even got an annulment after my divorces. And that's hard to do. A lot of people say, I don't want to look back. You have to look back. That's why I feel like I'm healthy. I'm healthy, and I'm sharing this information with all the people that want to listen to me. And like my buddy told me, he goes, Rock, first of all, I wish you'd take off your glasses. Nah, that's part of my brand. And I got cataracts, and I need sunglasses in Florida. And I'm walking on this during this deal because I could think and walk at the same time. And you might make fun of my tooth that got kicked out during my excitement of a NHL playoff game, a veneer. Don't worry, I'll get it fixed. I can afford it now that I don't have alimony payments or child support. So just going back to that issue of religion and picking the right horse. I think it's very important in my life that I wanted to meet a woman that believed in God, had faith, not so much about being Catholic, because I got my own relationship with God. And I'm proud of that. And everyone has their own God that they believe in. But how many really stick to it? It's the behavior, the actions, the deeds. Or is it just like, I don't believe in that. I want to be happy. You only live once. And you know what? It might be greener on the other side. I don't believe in that. I did what I had to do. And you know what? I have a hard time quitting something I start. I've always been that way. It's hard to quit on anything. But once you realize the risk and the benefit, and it's okay, I really analyze my every move now. What I invest in, who I invest my life with, what I want to do, what I eat, what I don't eat, what I smoke, what I don't smoke, what I drink, what I don't drink. I've made a lot of changes in my 70 plus years. And it's not over, man. And now, I will say, after that divorce, it taught me a lot. And I have to admit, I still carried on my faith with my kids, even though their mother did not. And I was there for discipline. I was there for their education. I was there with child support and financial support, mental support, everything. And that's one thing I want to say to everybody is, you don't give up on your kids. And I was told by my own father, because it crushed me to be without my kids when they were all under 12. And visitation was talked about. And custody was discussed. It was terrible. It's fucking terrible. But my dad said something to me that I'll never forget, and he was wrong. He said, Rock, don't forget I'm 33 years old. I'm a punk. And he says, you know, Rock, and he saw the pain I was in, and he says, you know, Rock, don't worry about the kids. Don't fight for the kids, because once they're 18, they'll be back. And I thought, what the fuck are you talking about? This is when you're needed most, is when they're young and the pain that they're going through. And guess what? I did the opposite of what my father said. And I started to become my own man. I started to realize who really cared about me. And I got God. Some very good friends too. Family didn't understand me because I was the superstar. And if the superstar could get fucked, will he ever come back? Well, guess what? I'm fucking back. And I am proud of what I brought to the table. And it's all because of God. So this is a lengthy video, and my editors will clean it up. But I have to get it off my chest. And it's about religion. It's not as much about finance or child support or psychological shit. It's basically about what kept me in there. My faith kept me in there. My God and all the tears and all the rosaries and all the retreats and all the rejection. Jesus was crucified at 33, and so was I. But you know what? God's been rejected every day. I'm at that point in my life that I don't really care what people think about what I do. That's freedom, man. That's independence. And that's why I'm letting you people know that you don't have to get angry about this shit, about being in a divorce, or the shame that I felt of going through a divorce, what other people thought as a businessman, as the president of a company. What do people think? And the hustle that other women, in my case, would approach me while I was going through divorce. The temptations were unbelievable. So you worry about Tiger Woods and everybody else running around with adultery. I was scared, man. I was scared to cheat. I was scared that God was going to come down and fucking punish me. Was I tested? You're fucking right, I was tested. Did I lapse a few times? Sure. But never cheated on a married person, especially a man, that a woman was taken or in the middle of a process. Fuck that, man. Because you will live with that the rest of your life. And that's what I got. A life of no regret. In fact, my legacy is I fucking made it, man. Man of integrity, and I want to teach my kids that. Because my kids are going to be tested. They're at that point. I was tested early in business. I was tested early in marriage. I was tested early in divorce of how to take the high road. And God always put somebody in front of me that said, Rock, do the fucking right thing. It's easy not to take that right road, man. I'm fucking walking here, and it's windy. I can go off. I can go into the parking lot. I could go on the grass. I could make my choices, okay? Now, that's the first divorce in religion, and I stuck to my religion. Catholic, got my kids through as far as they can go until I realize I have no control. They're adults. They're going to live their own life. And they have. And I'm proud of that. But now, they're going to hit some really tough roads, man. Because that's part of life. The ups and the downs. It's what you're going to do with it, man. Okay, now, people have asked me on my YouTube, Rock, why'd you get married the second time after 22 years of being single? Even my own mother, why you get married? Did they know something that I didn't know? I thought God put this woman in front of me and said, I met her in Catholic church. Yes. And it took me a couple months to approach her. And I finally did when I saw her in the street at a gas station. And here I had the impression, not only was she faithful, she was Catholic. And I thought, man, not only was she Catholic, she was attractive, my style, Colombian, multilingual, had a job, never married, no kids. And I thought, whoa, these are all huge opportunities that God put in front of me. And I was pretty well established. I was 8 years older, had a career. My kids were all married. I had grandkids. Met her parents. We dated maybe a year and a half. Nothing special. We were adults. Nothing high end. I didn't want to show that, I had a better financial foundation that she did and her parents. And things started deteriorating on me. Cataracts, high blood pressure, vertigo experiences, COVID in Rome for 10 days. I was quarantined. These were all signs, man. These were all signs. And then my therapist always says, Rock, you're the James Bond for that family. I had it all. I took care of these parents. I did way too much, man. Plus, I set up a foundation for underprivileged kids and the poor. She didn't like that. So I started thinking, is this woman the right woman for me? Talked to therapists, had 3 different options. Those options were just continue, or Rock, you might miss the boat and being alone the rest of your life. Number 2, just keep on dating women. And number 3, get married. I fucking picked the wrong door. I got married. Yeah, I got married. So while you're listening to this, are you kicking yourself in the ass? I'm not kicking myself. It's just another lesson learned, okay? So the process was, okay, we're going to get therapy. go through retreat, Catholic retreat. A priest loved us because we met in the same church. One of the first experiences was we went to talk to the priest, had breakfast with him, and we announced in January that we were thinking about getting married. Father, would you marry us? And he goes, oh yeah, no problem, while he's eating his eggs. And he goes, hey, listen, I knew it anyway. I saw you guys get closer and closer in the pews, and eventually, no problem. I know why we're here. And he said, but you can't get married till after Easter, because that's one of the rules in the Catholic Church. You can't get married during Lent, even though we had a date set and everything else. So no problem. So it gave us enough time to organize everything. So being the businessman that I am, we announced it to her side, my side, my parents. My parents are in their 80s at that time. And her parents are about 10 years younger. So they're late 70s, I guess, yeah. And we had a little shindig. And never married. My second wife was never married, had no ex-husbands. She wasn't dating for like 4 years is what she told me. And couldn't have children because of biological issues. And I thought she had her shit together. To be honest, I kind of felt sorry for her because a dual citizen, came from the old country during the Colombian issues in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s. And I thought, parents lived here, they had guts. I respected the parents for getting up and leaving. And I thought everything, and she was a nice person, attractive. We did rosaries. We take rides and go to NASA and there was, our decision was non-sexual. It was a platonic situation. And the way I look at it here was we were going to be celibate and non-sexual, part of our religious. And I thought that was okay. I've had my experiences and I was okay with that. Thinking that, God was doing all the right things. And I thought she was in between the Blessed Mother Mary and Mother Teresa. No shit. We were doing rosaries all the time and stuff like that. So I was in on it, thinking, this is good. And, I was going through a lot of changes in my life too. I'm talking about my career. I was transitioning. I was going to be 60. What else do I want to accomplish? I've traveled the world. Okay, now I got somebody to travel with that's bilingual, actually multilingual. So I thought, okay. And I was told by a friend of mine in his 90s that, Rock, if you could ever meet a woman that travels well, that's a keeper. Well, I thought she was a keeper. So she had a condo, I had a condo, and we decided that we'd move into my condo, which I owned. Okay, so later in the conversation, things started coming out, such as she filed bankruptcy a few years before. Big clue, big red flag. Second of it, she couldn't afford her HOA and her mortgage. But you know what? I said, it's not my problem. She could sort it out and decide what to do. And one of the things that I asked her is, how'd you come up with the money to down payment? Well, she told me that her father loaned her some money. I said, well, loaned it. Later in the marriage, I said, when are you going to start paying your father back? Because they didn't have any money, the parents. She goes, oh, no, it was a gift. No, you told me it was a loan, that down payment for that condo. And then I found out that she was in foreclosure before we got married. Another red flag. I'm telling you, man, all these situations. And then I was always, kind to her. I bought the rings. I gave her, a budget to spend at her discretion on the wedding. None of my friends were invited because I didn't want to put a burden on my family to travel to Florida from the Midwest. So I introduced her when I traveled up there to show her Milwaukee and Chicago and Minnesota and so on for my family. And I was getting these looks like, Rock, are you sure? But nobody said anything. I probably wouldn't have listened anyway, because I've been through the mill on dating and engagements and so on those 22 years. So went through the retreat, and they did discuss the prenup and for second marriages, and we had a prenup, went through that. And then there's a what they call an intake for the Catholic Church, where they ask you these questions and they notarize it and so on separately of each. And they more or less can predict whether you should get married or not. And these priests, this particular priest said, this is a match made in heaven. Okay? Whoa. So we go through the process, get married, and within a month, I'm serious, everybody, we went up to Minnesota in the Midwest to introduce this couple. And a couple friends had kind of like receptions for us, which was a really beautiful thing to do. So I was introducing her. Well, on the way back, driving from the Midwest, because I showed her such as Minnesota, Chicago, Duluth, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, of course. And then we just took our time. We took about a month off for the so-called intro and honeymoon. And it got to the point where I said, well, back to reality. And I was excited about going back to work because I'm a workaholic. Well, what happened was that's when she announced that they let her go in both jobs. I'm like, what? What do you mean let you go? Well, they wouldn't let me take a month off, so they fired me. I didn't have the vacation and stuff like that. Well, you got to fight that. And of course she did, and she lost. Okay, so that was it. So she was unemployed, and even though I thought she had the drive and the ambition to work, well, I found out she didn't. And I was working, and I was always creating something because that was my life, 50 years in business. But I'm the rainmaker and the breadwinner in this marriage. So anyway, bottom line was red flags left and right, man. And then I found out that she was a Democrat. That's a problem. And my family. So it's never talked about. You know how they say, don't talk about money, religion, and politics? Well, I talk about all of them. Why? Why not? Okay, I was brought up during the Ronald Reagan days. I saw what Ronald Reagan did to our company and our family and our investments in our business. So I'm conservative. Catholic, I believe in pro-life. I believe in family building and so on. Well, I found out that she wasn't. And I could tell by the way she held babies, or even wanted to be part of my foundations, which was giving back to special needs, the poor, and so on. She didn't want to have anything to do with it. Her feeling was, that's my money, that's my future. And by the way, you're going to die before me. Oh, okay. This is nasty shit to talk about, but I have to. It's therapeutic, and I want to give you a heads up. So, finance, religion, how to bring up the kids, you have to agree on, you should talk about it, and politics, all play. And that's one of the reasons why, as a business advisor all my life, I cut deals. And that's the first thing I do is start talking to the seller, the owner of the business, about their background, their foundation, how they were raised. Do you like your parents? Do you like your brothers and sisters, and so on? So I'm going to finish up here because that's the key, is before you get married, before you select your choice of marriage. Because nowadays you don't have to get married. We all know that. And you want to stay away from the state as long as it's possible. So try not to get involved until you talk about finance, talk about religion, talk about kids, and you talk about politics. Because everything could change. And it could change during and after. And as they say, the top reasons for divorce are 3. It's always finance, number 1. Number 2 is infidelity, which in my world is adultery, betrayal, sex, as they say. And number 3 is a commitment to the marriage. I realized later in both wives that they were not committed to reconciliation, making anything change, and when there's a third party involved. And is it greener on the other side? I wouldn't say so for the people that sinned. So this is just my opinion. And yes, I've gone through the annulment process. The second marriage was in church. I went through the annulment process. And I've also filed the annulment process for my second wife. Why? It's therapeutic. Therapeutic, and I'm going to obey the church. I shouldn't say the church. I'm going to obey God's teaching. Anyway, there's ups and downs in marriages, ups and downs in life, and I feel very fortunate that I could talk about this. Look where I am, and I could actually say I'm at peace, okay? I'm at peace, and I just want to mention to you, because I have a lot of my responses of anger and bitterness and experiences that everyone responds 50 to 80%. And even the people that are married, the 20% that make it to the finish line, was it really that great? I don't know. I was just fortunate that I lived a great life. I had a great career, great kids, and I paid my bills, and now I'm on social media talking about it. It's a good feeling. So I wish everybody luck. So I'll talk to you soon here. As I mentioned before, I'm not in the situation where I could say, always bring joy. You got to bring joy to yourself first before you could bring joy to anybody else. So I'll talk to you soon. This is Rock, your divorce strategist. I'll talk to you soon.